Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here walking with you in God's Word. We're in Exodus chapter 20 still as we're venturing our way, journeying our way through the commandments, the first chief part of one of the six chief parts, but the first one is what we get to see in Luther's small catechism. And so we're getting to find out more about what God has for his people. First three commandments, as we've done in these last videos, all about our relationship with God. And then we take that, we go to the second tablet of the commandments, which is 4 through 10. That has everything to do with our neighbors or those other than God. So love God, love others. How do we do that? We get to see that in the fourth and fifth commandment today. So Exodus chapter 20, we get to see that it is really important, especially where God first and foremost goes, isn't to the outside community, isn't to the people at church, isn't to the people at, no, he goes right to the familial system. He goes right to the heart of the family. And I'm not going to get on my soapbox too much, but this is one of the key things of being able to really see where the first attacks come when the evil one wants to demise a society. It goes right after the family first. God goes right after the family first as well. He says, love God and love others. But here's this fourth one. What does it look like for your authority within your family? What does it look like within respect and love and closeness within and amongst your family? That's really important to God. And the evil one knows that. And that's why he's going to square after it. And he's going to go after it to be able to try to tear that apart and distract that, and being able to know that when the family system breaks down, so does a human system that God has put in place. Community and love and the understanding of worth comes so much from the family. That's why we call it the family of God in that way. So verse 12 of chapter 20, from love God now to love others. Verse 12, honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in a land the Lord your God is giving you. And the way to love others is, as well as the fifth commandment, verse 13, you shall not murder. And so as I get out my handy small catechism, it says this is the fourth commandment of what Luther spoke to when he speaks to the fourth commandment in its meeting. And here it is. It says, honor your father and your mother. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not despise or anger our parents and other authorities. So do not despise or anger our parents. Yet, what's on the other side of that is honor them, serve and obey them, love and cherish them. Love and cherish them. So here's not just parents, but other authorities. God has placed, and this is where this is a commandment that Luther writes about, of being able to say God's representatives. And so within parents over a family, within government over society, within authorities over those, especially parents over children, and as we get to see government over society, we should not despise or anger them, but rather respect them, honor them, serve and obey them, love and cherish them, because, not necessarily because of their character or what they're doing, what decisions or leadership they have, it's because God has placed them in those positions. And so God requires us in this fourth commandment to honor our parents and other authorities by regarding them as God's representatives. Number two, it says, God requires of us in this commandment to serve our parents and other authorities by gladly providing what they need or require. Romans chapter 13 says this. It says, give everyone what you owe him. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Third thing that God requires of us in this commandment says to obey our parents and other authorities in everything in which God has placed them over us. Number four, to love and cherish our parents and other authorities as precious gifts of God. As precious gifts of God. You know, now it takes you a little while. It takes you a little while as children. I'm just a testimony of that, to be able to say, why are my parents doing that when I was younger in age and they were forming and shaping my character and my integrity, my foundations? I didn't know that. But really, you get to see here in this fourth one, to love and cherish our parents and other authorities as precious gifts of God. They've been placed in his stead and his command to be able to raise children, to raise society in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And as we do that as parents and as authorities, how beautiful it is to be able to receive the honor and respect that we are precious gifts of God, that God has placed as his representatives. And number 5, I'm not going to leave it out, but it says this, in this commandment, God requires us to show respect to the aged, to our elders, to our authorities, to the ones who have experienced life more. Now, people will fail. People won't hold up their bargain of being able to be good leaders or good representatives, yet that's not our prerogative to be able to judge them in that, but rather respect them, love them, and cherish them, that God has put them into a place. And I honor and respect and love and cherish God and what he has done and what he has put into place. Once again, this goes into our 5th commandment. You shall not murder. Love God, love others, have respect for authority, but have respect for life. The 5th commandment, God's gift of life. You shall not murder. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not hurt or harm our neighbor in his body, but help and support him in every physical need. God forbids us in the commandments for us to take the life of another person. How many, in any other way that you can think about, whether it be, as we've talked about, murder, abortion, euthanasia, even own life within, he forbids it. We are not the author and perfecter of life. We're not the ones who actually bring about and should bring about the end of life. God forbids that. But as he walks with us, he continues to say, he forbids us to be able to hurt or harm. Doesn't need to go towards that ending side or hurt or harm. That's what Jesus says. Have you hurt your brother? And you've committed murder. You've hurt or harmed him in a physical way. Right? God forbids us to keep anger and hatred in our hearts against our neighbors. So, what does God require of us in this 5th commandment? God requires of his people that we should help and support our neighbor in every bodily need. That means you need to know your neighbor. That means you need to know his need, and then being able to actually ask the Lord for his provision and strength and for his way of being able to meet that need of your neighbor. Number 2, it says we should be merciful, kind, and forgiving towards our neighbor. And number 3, we should avoid and assist our neighbor in avoiding the abuse of drugs or use of any substances that hurts or harms the body and mind. And so that's one of the things that I've loved about the community of St. Paul in Boca Raton, is being able to say how touching we are to the community of substance abuse, of drug abuse, being able to say, you have a space here to be able to figure that out. You have a space here. You have people here that want to surround you, and being able to say that is actually, God is requiring of us in that 5th commandment to not hurt or harm our neighbor, but rather speak well of him, right? And being able to actually lift him up and meet the needs. And this comes to the fact of our devotion today. So what's the need? What's the need that God is actually pushing for us in 4th and 5th commandment? To love God, yes. To love others, yes. To fear and love and trust in God above all things, yes. To fear and love God so that we actually bring that love towards our parents, our authorities, and our neighbors in any kind of way we can. And so what are these commandments actually really pushing us to do? Brothers and sisters, is one of the hardest asks that God has for us, to not be about ourselves. That we would not hurt or harm our neighbor to gain something for ourselves, but rather love, cherish, speak well of them, lift them up, meet their need. When we are giving and meeting people's needs, we are just continuing to walk in the image of God that he has created us in. So honor your father and your mother. Honor authority, respect authority, love and cherish it. It is God's gift to you. And do not murder, do not hurt or harm your neighbor. Rather, on the flip side of that, on the other side of that, what would God require of us is to meet our neighbor's need. So honor your authority and meet another person's need. It's a beautiful actually walk. It's actually an incredible task. It's actually an amazing challenge to us each and every day. Honor the people around us, especially if they're in authority, and meet the needs of the people around you. That's what God would do, and that's what he's called us to do. Have a blessed day. being challenged, but also being encouraged in that way to love people around you, honor them around you, and to meet the needs of those around you from what God has provided. Have a blessed day.